Park Tae-jun's wife had been dead for 3 years. He'd scattered her ashes himself, watched the ocean swallow every trace. So when he saw Juliet Smith in that Atlanta playground with 4 children who had her face and his eyes, he realized someone had been playing a game far more twisted than he'd imagined. Stay with me, because the truth about those children will destroy everything you think you know about identity, death, and the person sleeping beside you. The funeral had been small, private, just Tae-jun and his father standing beside a cliff in Busan as the wind carried Juliet's ashes across the water. March 2020, the same month she'd supposedly died in a car accident on the highway outside Seoul. The same month Tae-jun had identified her burned body in the morgue, had signed papers confirming her death, had buried the only woman he'd ever loved. Except now she stood 40 meters away in Piedmont Park, very much alive, surrounded by 4 children who shouldn't exist. Tae-jun's vision blurred. His hand instinctively moved to his chest where his heart hammered against his ribs. This wasn't possible. He'd seen her body, touched her cold hand. The dental records had matched. The DNA test his father insisted on had confirmed it. Juliet Park, née Smith, had died at 29 years old. He'd mourned for 3 years. So, who was this woman? The children moved in formation around her, 3 boys and 1 girl, all approximately 4 years old. The oldest boy had Tae-jun's sharp chin and Juliet's warm brown skin. The girl possessed Juliet's intelligent eyes and Tae-jun's intense focus. The twins were perfect combinations of both parents, impossible mirrors reflecting a past that shouldn't exist. She looked exactly like Juliet. Same height, same way of moving with liquid grace, same natural hair pulled back in intricate braids, same small mole above her left collarbone that he'd kissed countless times. But Juliet was dead. The woman noticed him suddenly. Her entire body went rigid. Fear flashed across her face, followed by something worse than panic. Recognition. She knew him. She'd been expecting this moment. The children immediately tightened formation, the oldest boy stepping forward protectively. They'd been trained for threat response. Who trains 4-year-olds for tactical situations? The woman spoke quickly to the children. They nodded in unison, began moving toward the parking lot with practiced efficiency. She walked toward Tae-jun instead, her shoulders squared like someone preparing for battle. She stopped 3 meters away, close enough to speak, far enough to run. "You're not supposed to be in Atlanta," she said. That voice, Juliet's voice, the same low rasp that used to whisper his name in darkness. "You're dead," Tae-jun heard himself say. "I watched you die." Something flickered in her eyes. "I know what you think you saw, but Tae-jun, I need you to listen very carefully. Those children," she gestured toward the parking lot where 4 small figures waited in a car, "are in danger. You being here puts them in more danger. You need to leave Atlanta, tonight. Forget you saw me." "Forget?" The word came out strangled. "You're alive. You've been alive for 3 years while I—" His voice broke. "While I grieved you. While I wanted to die every single day because you were gone." Her face crumbled for just a moment, showing pain beneath the mask. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But you can't be here. He'll know. He'll figure it out. And if he realizes I'm alive, if he understands what those children are—" She stopped, seemed to reconsider her words. "Just leave, please." "Who's he?" Tae-jun demanded. "Who are you afraid of?" "Everyone," she whispered. "I'm afraid of everyone, including you." That hit like a physical blow. "Me? You think I'd hurt you? I think you'd choose loyalty over truth," she said. "I think when your father asks questions, you'd answer them. And I think those answers would get my children killed." His father. This was about his father. "What does Park Jin-woo have to do with any of this?" "Everything," she said. "He has everything to do with it. He's the reason I'm dead. He's the reason those children exist. He's the reason you're standing here thinking you've seen a ghost." She glanced over her shoulder at the car, at 4 small faces pressed against the window. "I have to go. If you ever loved me, Tae-jun, you'll forget this happened. You'll go back to Seoul. You'll let me stay dead." "Those children," he said. "They look like us. Like both of us. How is that possible if you've been dead for 3 years?" Juliet's eyes filled with tears. "Because I died the day I gave birth to them. The woman who loved you, who trusted your father, who believed family meant something, she died. What's left is just a mother trying to keep her children alive." She turned to walk away. Tae-jun grabbed her wrist. The contact was electric, undeniable. This was her, flesh and blood, alive. "Tell me the truth," he said. "All of it." She looked at his hand on her wrist, then met his eyes. The truth will make you choose between your father and me. And Taejun, I already know which one you'll pick." She pulled free and walked away, leaving him standing alone in the park with a truth that shattered 3 years of grief and a question that had no safe answer. Taejun didn't leave Atlanta. Instead, he sat in his hotel room staring at his phone, at the contact labeled "Father," and felt something he'd never experienced before: doubt. His entire life, Park Jin-woo had been absolute, infallible. The man who built empires from nothing, who commanded loyalty through fear and respect in equal measure. The man who'd held Taejun while he sobbed over Juliet's death, who'd paid for the funeral, who'd helped him scatter her ashes. Had all of that been performance? Had his father looked him in the eye while knowing Juliet was alive? The burner phone he'd bought rang at midnight. Unknown number. He answered without speaking. "You're still in Atlanta," Juliet's voice. "How did you know?" "Because you're your father's son. Obedience or investigation, no middle ground. You chose investigation." She sighed. "Fine. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., Centennial Olympic Park. Come alone. If I see anyone following you, if I sense surveillance, I disappear and you never find us again." The line went dead. Taejun arrived at 9:30, checked the perimeter, identified exits, old habits. By 9:45, he'd spotted her security. A tall black man in casual clothes, positioned near the fountain. A woman with a stroller that didn't hold a baby. Both professionals. Juliet appeared at exactly 10 a.m., without the children. She wore sunglasses and a Braves cap, anonymous in the morning crowd. They walked along the path in silence for several minutes. Finally, she spoke. The woman who died in that car accident was real. Her name was Kim Soo-jin, plastic surgery patient. Your father's organization arranged her procedures over 2 years, made her look exactly like me. Same height, same build, same dental structure. They used her body as mine. Taejun's stomach turned. "Why?" "Because 3 years ago, I discovered something about your father's organization. Something that could destroy him. He decided the easiest solution was making me disappear, but he needed you to believe I was dead, needed you to stop looking for me. So he created a body." She stopped walking, turned to face him. The car accident was staged. Soo-jin was already dead when they burned the vehicle. Your father made you identify her as me, made you bury her, made you mourn. That's impossible. I saw her. I knew her body, Juliet. I knew you. You saw what grief expected to see. A burned corpse. Dental records that matched because he'd had Soo-jin's teeth altered. DNA that matched because... She stopped, seemed to wrestle with whether to continue. Because what? Because he had samples of my DNA from the fertility clinic we'd used. He planted them. Made you believe the science confirmed what your eyes saw. Taejun leaned against a wall, feeling his worldview collapse. The children, how? Fertility treatments worked. I was 8 weeks pregnant when I discovered what your father was planning. I ran. Went underground with help from people he doesn't control. Gave birth in a clinic off-grid. Raised them in hiding. She removed her sunglasses, let him see her eyes. They're ours, Taejun. Naturally conceived, naturally born. The only real thing in this nightmare of manipulation. Why not contact me? Tell me you were alive? Because you'd tell him. Her voice was flat. Maybe not intentionally. Maybe you'd think you could protect us, but you'd tell him, and he'd take them, use them, turn our children into weapons or leverage or pawns in whatever game he's playing. I wouldn't. You already did, she interrupted. 3 years ago, when I tried to warn you about his plans, when I showed you evidence of what he was building, you went to him with questions. You chose loyalty. So I chose survival. The accusation hung between them like smoke. I was trying to understand, Taejun said, trying to believe my father wasn't a monster. But he is, and you've spent your whole life knowing it and pretending otherwise. She put her sunglasses back on. The children are safe as long as he thinks I'm dead. The moment he knows I'm alive, they become targets. So tell me, Taejun, what are you going to do? Call your father? Or choose us? He looked at this woman who'd died and been resurrected, who'd carried his children while running from his family, who was asking him to betray the only father he'd ever known. I choose you, he said. I choose them. But I need proof. I need to see evidence of what he did before I can burn that bridge forever. Juliet studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Then follow me. But Taejun, once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. And what comes next will require you to become someone your father never trained you to be. What's that? A good man. The storage unit sat in a nondescript facility in Marietta. Juliet entered a code, pulled up the door, revealed years of documentation. File boxes stacked floor to ceiling, hard drives, photographs, bank records. Evidence of an investigation that had consumed her life. "I've been building a case for 3 years," she said, pulling out files. "Everything your father did, who he killed, how he manufactured my death, the extent of his organization. I have testimony from Sujin's family, medical records showing her surgeries, financial trails proving payment. I have everything." Taejun opened a box. Inside, photographs of him, at the morgue, at the funeral, at his apartment in Seoul, staring at walls, drowning in grief. Someone had documented his suffering. "Who took these?" "I did," she whispered. "I needed to see you were grieving. Needed proof you believed I was dead. If you'd shown doubt, if you'd kept searching, your father would have known the deception hadn't worked. Your grief was my alibi." He looked at photo after photo of his own destruction. Saw himself becoming hollow, becoming someone who existed but didn't live. "You watched me fall apart. Every day. Every single day I wanted to tell you. But the children..." Her voice broke. "I had 4 babies who needed to survive more than you needed closure." It was logical, brutal, absolutely correct, and it made him hate his father with a clarity he'd never experienced. "Show me how he did it." She pulled out a medical file. Sujin's transformation documented in photographs. A woman who'd started with different features, underwent procedures, became Juliet's twin. The timeline showed 2 years of careful alteration. His father had been planning this for years. He approached her family when she was dying of cancer, offered to pay all medical bills, provide for her children, if she'd donate her body to a medical research project. They agreed. She died 3 weeks before the accident. He kept her body preserved, then used it when he decided I needed to disappear. "Why did he want you dead? What did you discover?" Juliet pulled out another file. This one made Taejun's blood freeze. Human trafficking. His father's organization wasn't just running guns and money. They were moving people, children specifically. Orphanages in Korea connected to adoption agencies in America. Legal paperwork hiding illegal sales. "He's been selling children for 15 years, Juliet said. Tens of millions in profit. I discovered it accidentally while researching international adoption for an article. Found patterns. Tracked money. Realized some of those transactions flowed through your father's businesses." She handed him a list. Names, ages, last known locations. These children disappeared into the system. Legal adoptions that weren't legal. I tried to expose it. Your father found out. Decided I was a problem that needed permanent solving. Taejun read name after name, some as young as 3 years old. His father had commodified children while preaching about family legacy. "Why haven't you gone to authorities?" "Because they're in his pocket. Judges, police, immigration officials. I'd need federal involvement, maybe international, and I'd need to prove I'm alive first, which means explaining why I let everyone believe I was dead, which means admitting I abandoned a husband, faked my death, went into hiding. They'd investigate me before they investigated him." She was trapped in her own survival strategy. "What's your plan?" "Stay hidden, raise my children, keep documenting. Hope eventually someone with power and integrity appears who can take down an organization this big." She looked at him. "That person isn't you, Taejun. You're brilliant, loyal, trained in every aspect of his operation. But you're also his son. You can't be the one who destroys him." "Why not?" "Because even now, even seeing this evidence, part of you wants to find a way he's not the monster this proves he is. Part of you wants me to be wrong. That part will hesitate when action is required. That hesitation will get us killed." She was right. Even now, staring at proof of atrocities, Taejun's mind searched for explanations. Maybe his father didn't know. Maybe subordinates acted without approval. Maybe... "Stop," Juliet said, watching his face. "Stop trying to save him. He manufactured my death. He trafficked children. He made you grieve a staged tragedy while I hid pregnant and terrified. There's no version of this where he's redeemable." Taejun set down the files, looked at this woman who'd become a ghost to protect their children. "Then help me become the person who can destroy him. Teach me to choose right over loyalty. Because I'm tired of being his son, I want to be their father instead." Meeting the children was like staring into a mirror that reflected both past and future. Taemin, the oldest by 7 minutes, had his intensity and Juliet's strategic mind. Kojo possessed his father's silence and observation skills. Jin showed Juliet's warmth combined with Taejun's precision. And Zola, the only girl, had somehow inherited the most dangerous traits from both parents: absolute focus wrapped in disarming charm. They sat in Juliet's safe house in Decatur, studying him with identical expressions of careful assessment. 4-year-olds who'd been raised in hiding, trained in security protocols, taught to trust no one. "You're our father," Taemin said. "Not a question. A statement requiring confirmation." "Yes. Mom said you were dangerous. That loving you would put us at risk." The child's voice carried no judgment, just curiosity. "She was right. But you're here anyway." "Yes." "Why?" It was the question Taejun had been asking himself since that moment in the park. "Because 3 years ago I lost everything. Now I've found out I never lost it, just believed a lie. I'm here because I'm tired of believing lies." Zola spoke next. "Grandfather made Mom dead. He's bad." The simplicity of children cutting through complexity. "Yes, he did something very bad. Will you make him stop?" Her grammar was still developing, but her intent was clear. Would he stop his father? That question required an answer that would define everything going forward. Taejun looked at Juliet, saw her watching him, waiting to see if he'd commit or hedge. "Yes," he said. "I'm going to stop him." "How?" This from Kojo, the quiet observer. "I'm going to take everything your mother has gathered, all the evidence. I'm going to add what I know about his organization. Then I'm going to find someone who can't be bought or threatened, someone with the power to dismantle what he's built, and I'm going to hand over my father." "Then he'll hurt you," Jin said, his small face serious. "Men who get hurt strike back. Grandfather will want to hurt you for betraying him." "Probably," Taejun agreed. "Then you need protection," Taemin said. "You need what we have. Training, plans, safe houses. You need to become like Mom." Juliet had been silent, but now she spoke. "You're suggesting we trust him, bring him into our network, make him part of our survival strategy." "He's our father," Taemin said simply. "We protect family." The irony wasn't lost on Taejun. These children, raised to fear his father's organization, were offering him sanctuary in their mother's shadow world. "I accept," he said. "Teach me how to survive him." The next 3 weeks were intensive training in survival. Juliet showed him her network safe houses across 3 states, contacts in law enforcement who owed her favors, journalists who'd been investigating similar cases. Marcus, her head of security, taught him counter-surveillance techniques. The children, despite their age, contributed their own observations about maintaining secrecy, but it was the nights that changed Taejun fundamentally. Sitting in Juliet's kitchen while she documented evidence, watching her build cases with the precision of the attorney she'd been, seeing her transform from the woman he'd mourned into someone harder, sharper, more dangerous than he'd imagined possible. "You became what you needed to become," he said one night. "I became what he forced me to become," she corrected. "There's a difference. You choose strength. I chose survival. They look similar but feel different." "I'm sorry," he said, "for all of it. For not believing you 3 years ago. For choosing loyalty to him over trust in you. For making you do this alone. You didn't make me do anything. Your father did. And saying sorry doesn't change 3 years of single parenthood while hiding from a man who wants me dead." Her voice was hard, but it's a start. What would make this right? What would actually matter? She looked at him across the table. This woman who'd died and been resurrected by necessity. Destroy him. Completely. Publicly. Make him answer for every crime. Show our children that power doesn't protect predators forever. Do that, and we'll talk about forgiveness. And us? The question had been hanging unspoken since the park. What happens to us? That depends, she said. Can you love a woman who spent 3 years letting you believe she was dead? Can you love someone who chose children over your grief? Can you love what I became? He reached across the table, took her hand. She flinched but didn't pull away. I loved who you were. I can learn to love who you are. If you'll let me. The call came at 3 a.m. Taejun's father, voice carrying concern and something else underneath. Son, we need to talk. It's urgent. About what? About Juliet. About questions you've been asking. About why you're still in Atlanta. Ice flooded Taejun's veins. I don't know what you mean. Don't insult me. I've had eyes on you since you landed. I know you've been investigating. I know you've been meeting someone. I know, a pause, heavy with implication, that you've been visiting places a grieving widower shouldn't know about. They were compromised. Somehow, despite all precautions, his father had tracked him. We should meet. Park Jin-woo continued. Face to face. Clear the air. I'll come to Atlanta, tomorrow. Just us. It was a trap. Obviously. His father never traveled without security, never exposed himself unnecessarily. This was a power play, showing Tae-jun he knew everything and was still offering a conversation. Juliet was listening on speakerphone, her face pale. She wrote on a notepad, "Say yes, we can prepare." "Okay," Tae-jun said. "Tomorrow. Where?" "That hotel you're staying at. Noon. Come alone. I'll do the same." Another lie. His father would bring an army. Tae-jun hung up and immediately started planning with Juliet and Marcus. They had 18 hours to prepare for a confrontation with one of Korea's most dangerous men. "He'll have surveillance in the hotel," Marcus said. "Probably already does. He'll know the layout, have exits covered, have backup positioned. He's giving us home field advantage as an illusion while maintaining actual control." "Then we change the field," Juliet said. "We don't meet at the hotel. We meet somewhere we control. Somewhere public enough that he can't make us disappear, but private enough for honest conversation." "He won't agree to change locations," Tae-jun said. "Then we don't give him a choice. We ambush his ambush." She smiled, and it wasn't pleasant. "Your father thinks he's playing chess. Let's show him we're playing something more dangerous." The Georgia Aquarium at opening time. Tourists and school groups providing cover. Security cameras everywhere, making violence risky. Multiple exits, but enough structure to control movement. They arrived early, positioned Marcus and his team. Juliet stayed hidden with the children in a nearby safe house, ready to disappear if things went wrong. At noon exactly, Park Jin-woo entered alone. Actually alone, which surprised Tae-jun until he realized his father had probably positioned people outside. He looked older than 3 years should have made him. Grayer. More tired. "You changed locations," he said in Korean. "Clever. I learned from the best," Tae-jun replied. "Tell me about Juliet." His father's expression didn't change. "She died 3 years ago. You were there. You buried her. I buried Kim Soo-jin, a woman you surgically altered to look like my wife, a woman whose body you used to stage Juliet's death." Still no reaction. Park Jin-woo was a master at controlling his face. "Why would I do something so elaborate?" "Because Juliet discovered your child trafficking operation. Because she was going to expose you. Because murdering her outright would create questions, but making her die accidentally solved everything. Finally, a flicker. Not guilt, irritation. You've been talking to someone feeding you creative fiction. I've seen the evidence, medical records, financial transactions, testimony from Soo-jin's family. I know what you did." Park Jin-woo sighed, looked around at families enjoying the aquarium, at children pressing hands against glass watching fish. "Those children," he said quietly, "needed families. We provided families. Yes, we profited. But we also created thousands of happy homes. Is that trafficking or facilitation? You sold babies to the highest bidder. Some of those children disappeared. Some adoptions fail. Some families are better at hiding than others. That's not my responsibility." The casual cruelty was stunning. "You commodified children. I created opportunities. For childless couples. For orphans who'd otherwise rot in institutions. For families across 2 continents. I built bridges." He stepped closer. "And your wife threatened to destroy those bridges because she had a naive view of how the world works. So yes, I eliminated the problem. I'd do it again." "She's alive," Tae-jun said. His father's face transformed. The mask shattered. What emerged was something predatory and coldly furious. "Impossible. I saw the body. You saw the body. You saw Soo-jin. Juliet has been alive and hiding for 3 years. And now I know everything you did. I have evidence. I have testimony. I have enough to bury you." Park Jin-woo's eyes narrowed. "Then you also have enough to bury yourself. You're complicit in everything I've built. Your name is on documents. Your hands are dirty. You destroy me. You destroy your own future. I'm willing to burn for this," Tae-jun said. "The question is, are you?" Park Jin-woo was quiet for a long moment, watching tropical fish circle their tank. When he spoke, his voice carried a weariness Tae-jun had never heard. "You think this is about control, about power, about me being a monster who can't admit fault." He turned. "But what if it's about protection? What if everything I did was protecting you from something worse? There's nothing worse than child trafficking. There's torture. There's death. There's watching your son torn apart by rivals who smell weakness." His father moved closer. 3 years ago, The Wong family from Hong Kong decided our territories were negotiable. They wanted Seoul. They wanted my operations. They made it clear that to get them, they'd go through my family. Through you. Taejun felt the ground shift. You never mentioned this. Because I handled it. Quietly. Brutally. I protected you by eliminating threats before they materialized. But Juliet. He paused. Juliet made herself a target by investigating. She drew attention I couldn't control. If the Wongs knew she was building evidence, if they understood she could collapse my organization, they'd have taken her, used her, extracted every piece of information through methods that would have destroyed her mind before they killed her body. So you killed her first. I saved her, his father said. From something worse than death. I gave her a clean exit. Staged accident, quick cremation, finished. The Wongs lost interest. You moved on. She got to keep living, somewhere, without constantly looking over her shoulder for men who specialize in creative violence. Except she's been looking over her shoulder anyway. Because of you. Because she didn't trust me to protect her. Park Jin-woo's voice hardened. I gave her an out. Paid her enough money to disappear comfortably. All she had to do was stay dead. Instead, she's been building cases, gathering evidence, making herself exactly the threat I tried to neutralize. Taejun processed this. You're saying you faked her death to save her. I'm saying I removed her from a situation that would have ended in her torture and murder. Yes, I used Sujin's body. Yes, I lied to you. But the alternative was letting the Wongs get their hands on her. Tell me, son, would you have preferred that? It was manipulation. It had to be. His father excelled at reframing atrocities as necessary sacrifices. The child trafficking has been shut down for 18 months. His father interrupted. When Juliet started investigating, I realized how exposed we were. I dismantled the operation, transferred children to legitimate agencies, cleaned the money trails. I used her investigation as motivation to exit a business that had become too risky. She should be thanking me. You sold babies. I facilitated adoptions with financial incentives. In a perfect world, that would be unnecessary. We don't live in a perfect world. We live in one where orphanages overflow and childless couples are desperate. I connected supply with demand. Was it ethical? Debatable. Was it evil? That depends on your perspective. Taejun wanted to punch him, wanted to drag him to authorities, wanted to make him stop twisting reality into shapes that somehow justified horror. But he also recognized something in his father's logic. The cold calculus of someone who'd spent decades making impossible choices in impossible situations. Where's the line? Taejun asked. Where do you draw the line between necessary evil and just evil? I draw it at family, his father said. Everything I've done, every compromise, every crime, every body has been to protect this family, to protect you, to build something you could inherit without the blood I waded through to create it. Juliet threatened that. So I removed her from the equation. Not because I'm a monster. Because I'm a father who refuses to let his son pay for my choices. It was the most honest thing Park Jin-woo had ever said. It was also the most damning. Because it revealed a man who'd convinced himself that love justified atrocity. That protection required preemptive violence. That family was worth any cost, paid by anyone unlucky enough to be outside its circle. I have children now, Taejun said, 4 of them. And I need to decide what kind of father I'm going to be. Someone who justifies horror for their sake? Or someone who shows them there are lines we don't cross, even when crossing would be easier. His father smiled sadly. Then you've already decided. You're going to destroy me, because you think being good matters more than being effective. Because Juliet taught you to value morality over survival. Fine, do what you need to do. But understand the moment you move against me, you put a target on those children. My enemies will see your betrayal as weakness. They'll exploit it. And you'll learn what I already know. That being good is a luxury we can't afford. Taejun left the aquarium with his father's words echoing in his mind. Back at the safe house, Juliet waited with the children. He told them everything, his father's justifications, the claims about the Wong family, the assertion that shutting down trafficking was somehow proof of reformation. Juliet listened with her jaw clenched. He's lying. The Wong family approached us 3 years ago, yes, but I handled that situation diplomatically through my firm. There was never a kidnapping threat. He's creating a narrative that makes him the hero of his own story. You're certain? I have the correspondence, the contracts, the resolution. The Wongs wanted shipping access, not Seoul. Your father gave them routes through Busan in exchange for staying out of his primary territories. It was business, not warfare. She pulled out files. He's reframing everything to make you doubt your judgment. It's what he does. Taemin had been quiet, but now he spoke. If grandfather is lying about protecting mom, what else is he lying about? Everything, Juliet said. That's what makes him dangerous. He mixes truth with fiction until you can't tell the difference. He admitted trafficking children, then immediately reframed it as helping orphans. He confessed to staging my death, then claimed it was for my protection. He's asking you to focus on his intentions rather than his actions. What do we do? Taejun asked. We can't destroy him if he's positioned himself as my protector. Any move I make looks like betrayal of someone trying to help. We expose everything simultaneously, Juliet said. Not just trafficking, not just my faked death. Everything. His entire organization. Every crime, every connection, every person he's hurt. We create such a complete picture that his individual justifications become irrelevant against the totality. Marcus had been researching. I've found someone. FBI agent Allison Parker. She's been investigating international adoption fraud for 5 years. She's clean, competent, and crucially she's protected. High enough profile that eliminating her would create more problems than it solves. Will she believe us? Taejun asked. She'll believe the evidence, Marcus said. And we have enough to fill a warehouse. She'll investigate, and what she finds will lead to more. Your father's organization is like a hydra. Cut off one head, you find others. Parker can start cutting. But there was a problem. Taejun's phone buzzed. A text from his father. Your children are beautiful. Taemin has your eyes. Zola, your mother's smile. I look forward to knowing them properly. Lunch tomorrow? Let's discuss their future. Ice flooded through the room. Park Jin-woo knew about the children. Not just suspected. Knew. Had been watching them. How? Juliet's voice was deadly calm. I was careful. We all were. Taemin answered. I posted a picture on a private Instagram account 3 days ago. Just us playing. I used hashtags. I thought, his small voice broke. I thought it was private. No one blamed him. He was 4 years old. But the mistake had revealed everything. What does he want? Juliet asked. To meet them. To bring them into his world. To make them part of his legacy. Taejun looked at his father's message. The threat was implicit. Play along, or the children become targets for his enemies. Resist, and they become leverage. We accelerate everything, Marcus said. We get Parker here tomorrow. We hand over evidence. We put your father under federal investigation before he can move. He'll disappear, Taejun said. The moment he smells law enforcement, he'll vanish. He has resources in 12 countries. Then we make him stay, Juliet said. We give him something he wants more than escape. What could he possibly want that much? Redemption, she said. Or what looks like it. We offer him a deal. He testifies against his organization. He exposes the people above and below him. He becomes the man who brought down a trafficking network instead of the man who ran it. In exchange, reduced charges, witness protection for him, safety for us. You want me to offer my father a way out? I want you to offer him a story he can tell himself. The story where he's still a hero who made hard choices. That's all he's ever wanted, to believe he's good despite everything. We give him that belief. He gives us everyone else. It was brilliant, cruel, exactly what Park Jin-woo would do in their position. He'll see through it, Taejun said. Eventually, Juliet agreed. But by then he'll be committed. He'll have testified. He'll have burned bridges with people who could hurt our children. He'll be neutralized. And if he doesn't take the deal, then we destroy him the hard way, she said, and deal with whatever consequences come. But we offer the choice first. Because that's what separates us from him. We believe people can choose better. Taejun looked at his 4 children, at these small humans who'd been dragged into a war they didn't choose. I'll call him, set up a meeting, but not lunch, not with the children, just us. Final conversation. Tell him I'll be there too, Juliet said. Dead women have perspectives, living women don't. The meeting happened in a private room at a Korean restaurant his father owned. Neutral territory that wasn't neutral at all. But they came anyway. Taejun, Juliet, and Marcus positioned outside as security and witness. Park Jin-woo's face when Juliet walked in was worth documenting. Shock, then calculation, then something approaching admiration. You're remarkably resourceful, he said in English. 3 years dead, yet here you are. Explains why the body kept decomposing incorrectly. You knew? Taejun asked. I suspected. Sujin's family received payments longer than they should have. Someone was maintaining their silence about something. I assumed you'd figured it out and were protecting her. I didn't realize she'd been hiding from both of us. He gestured to chairs. Please, sit. We should talk honestly for once. They sat. Juliet placed a folder on the table between them. This is everything. Every crime. Every connection. Every piece of evidence needed to dismantle your organization and send you to prison for life. It's currently in multiple locations. If anything happens to us, it gets released. Mutually assured destruction, Park Jin-woo said. Classic, but also pointless. You think I haven't prepared for this? You think 3 years was enough to make me vulnerable? I've been covering tracks since before you were born, girl. Your evidence is impressive but insufficient. Then why are you here? Taejun asked. Why not just eliminate us? Because you're my son. Because those children are my grandchildren. Because despite everything, I'd prefer not to go to war with my own family. Also, he smiled, because Agent Parker has been sitting outside this restaurant for 20 minutes. Very obvious surveillance. You brought federal law enforcement to a personal meeting. Either you're stupid, or you're trying to force a specific outcome. I'm betting on the latter. Juliet didn't flinch. We're offering you a deal. Full testimony against your organization. You provide names, evidence, access to offshore accounts. You help dismantle the network. In exchange, reduce charges. Witness protection. A chance to be the man who brought down trafficking instead of the man who facilitated it. And if I refuse, then we give everything to Parker tonight. You spend whatever time you have left fighting extradition and indictments. Your grandchildren grow up knowing their grandfather died in prison. Your legacy becomes a cautionary tale. You become exactly what you've spent your life trying not to be forgotten, except as an example of what not to do. Park Jin-woo was quiet for a long time. Then he laughed, and it was genuine. You're offering me redemption. A narrative where I'm complicated instead of evil, where I made mistakes but corrected them, where my final act is heroism that partially erases decades of crime. Yes, Juliet said. That's insulting, he said. And brilliant. And exactly what I'd do in your position. You understand I'm not actually redeemable? That testifying against people I've worked with for 30 years makes me a traitor, not a hero? That witness protection means giving up everything I built? We understand, Taejun said. But we also understand you're 65 years old. You have maybe 10 good years left. Do you want to spend them in prison fighting appeals? Or do you want to spend them being a grandfather? Someone those children can know without shame? Someone who did terrible things but tried to fix them before dying? You're asking me to choose family over empire. We're asking you to choose what matters more. The organization you built or the legacy you leave. Because you can't have both. Not anymore. We've made sure of that. Park Jin-woo looked at Taejun. Really looked at him. You've become someone I don't recognize. Someone who'd betray his father for a woman and children he barely knows. Someone who thinks morality matters more than survival. Your mother would be proud. I'm not sure if I am. I don't need your approval anymore, Taejun said. I need your answer. Are you taking the deal? His father stood, walked to the window, looked out at Atlanta streets. I've spent my entire life building something that would outlast me. Something that would make the Park name mean power. And you're asking me to destroy it, to become a cautionary tale instead of a legend. To trade everything for the possibility of being a grandfather to children who'll never fully trust me. Yes, Juliet said. That's exactly what we're asking. Choose them over empire. Choose family over power. Choose being remembered fondly by 4 children over being feared by thousands of strangers. Choose being someone better than you've been. Park Jin-woo turned back to them. If I say yes, if I testify, if I give you everything, you'll let me know them? The children? You'll give me a chance to be part of their lives? If you've earned it, Taejun said. If you've actually changed. If you prove you can put their well-being above your pride, then yes, you can be their grandfather. Then I'll do it, Park Jin-woo said. Not because your deal is appealing, but because you're right. I'm 65. I'm tired, and I'd like to die knowing my son doesn't hate me. Even if I probably deserve it. The testimony took 6 months. Park Jin-woo sat in federal facilities, surrounded by agents, revealing 30 years of secrets, names, locations, financial structures, connections throughout Asia and America. He exposed judges he'd bribed, police he'd bought, officials he'd compromised. Every revelation led to more investigations. The network he'd built over decades unraveled thread by thread. Agent Parker called it the most significant organized crime prosecution in 20 years. International warrants issued. Assets frozen. People who'd thought themselves untouchable suddenly facing extradition and trials. And at the center, Park Jin-woo, the man who'd decided betraying everyone was worth the possibility of redemption. But Tae-jun watched his father carefully during those months, looked for signs of genuine change versus performance. What he saw was complicated. His father testified with clinical precision, no emotion, no apparent regret. He provided information the way someone might catalog belongings. This person committed these crimes. That organization moved this money. These children were trafficked through these channels. No hand-wringing, no apologies. Just facts delivered by someone who decided cooperation was strategically optimal. He's not sorry, Tae-jun told Juliet one night. He's compliant. There's a difference. Maybe sorrow comes later, she said. Or maybe he's incapable of it. But he's still doing what we asked. He's still destroying his life's work. That matters even if his motivations are selfish. Does it? If he's only cooperating because we forced him, if he'd go back to trafficking tomorrow given the chance, what have we actually accomplished? We've stopped him, Juliet said. That's enough. We don't need him to be redeemed. We just need him to be neutralized. Everything else is bonus. The children met their grandfather in a supervised facility 3 months into his testimony. He looked smaller somehow, diminished by cooperation and consequences, but his face when he saw them lit up with something that seemed genuine. You're more beautiful than photographs suggested, he said in careful English. Your father tells me you're brilliant. Show me. Taemin pulled out a tablet, showed him a game he'd programmed. Zola discussed a book she was writing about families and secrets. The twins demonstrated a complicated handshake they'd invented, and Park Jin-woo watched with something approaching wonder. They're perfect, he said to Tae-jun afterward. Completely perfect. You and Juliet made something better than either of you. Don't take credit, Tae-jun said. You nearly destroyed them before they were born. Juliet kept them safe despite you, not because of you. I know, his father said quietly, and I'm trying to make sure they stay safe going forward. Everyone I'm testifying against, they're people who'd use children as weapons. I'm eliminating threats before they can materialize. That's my contribution. Negative parenting maybe, but still parenting. It was the closest to self-awareness Tae-jun had ever heard from him. Are you sorry? For any of it? For trafficking children? For destroying Juliet's life? For making me grieve someone who was alive? Park Jin-woo thought for a long time. I'm sorry I got caught. I'm sorry my methods were exposed. I'm sorry you're disappointed in me. But am I sorry for the actions themselves? I don't know. I did what I thought necessary at the time. Necessity doesn't leave room for regret. It was honest, at least. Brutally, painfully honest. Then you haven't changed, Tae-jun said. You've just been defanged. Perhaps. Or perhaps change is impossible for people like me. Perhaps all we can do is stop causing harm and hope that's enough. His father looked through the glass at the children playing. I'll never be what you want me to be. I'll never be someone they can admire without reservation. But I can be someone who stopped. Someone who chose differently at the end. Is that worth anything? I don't know, Tae-jun said honestly. Ask me in 10 years. The trials concluded 18 months after that first confrontation in the aquarium. Park Jin-woo received a reduced sentence, 15 years with possibility of parole after 8. He'd be 80 years old when released. Old enough that whatever damage he could do would be limited. He was transferred to a federal facility in minimum security, allowed visits, allowed communication, allowed to be a grandfather from behind glass and monitored phone lines. Juliet and Tae-jun had married quietly during the trials. No ceremony, just paperwork making official what had never really ended. They bought a house in Virginia, far from Seoul and Atlanta both, started over in a place where their names meant nothing, and their past was private. The children thrived. Taemin showed interest in law. Zola studied computer science. The twins discovered music. They grew up knowing their grandfather was in prison, knowing what he'd done, knowing the complicated truth about their family's origins. And somehow, they processed it with more wisdom than their parents. Grandfather made bad choices, Taemin said once. But he's our grandfather anyway. We can love someone and know they're wrong. We can visit him and still think he deserved prison. People are complicated. Out of the mouths of 8-year-olds. 10 years after Park Jin-woo's imprisonment, Tae-jun stood in a prison visiting room waiting for his father's final visit. Cancer had come quickly, aggressively. The old man had maybe weeks left. They'd transferred him to hospice care within the facility. This would be goodbye. Park Jin-woo shuffled in, thinner, grayer, diminished by time and disease. But his eyes were still sharp, still calculating, still seeing angles and opportunities others missed. "You came," he said, sitting heavily. "All of you. The children were here, now 14 years old, young adults, really, despite their age. They'd asked to come, insisted on saying goodbye to a grandfather they'd known primarily through glass and monitored conversations. "We wanted to be here," Taemin said. "Your family. Family shows up. Even for criminals?" Park Jin-woo's smile was sad. "Even for people who don't deserve forgiveness?" "Especially then," Zola said. "That's what family means. Showing up even when it's hard, even when the person doesn't deserve it. That's the whole point." They talked for an hour. Park Jin-woo told stories about Taejun's mother, about growing up in poverty in Korea, about building something from nothing through determination and crime. He told them about choices, about how easily good intentions become justifications for horror. "I told myself I was building a legacy," he said. "But legacy is what people remember after you're gone, and what people will remember about me is what I destroyed, not what I built. The children I trafficked, the lives I ruined, the son I failed. That's my legacy. Everything else is just noise." "You also testified," Juliet said quietly. "You helped bring down a network that was harming children. That matters too. Not enough to erase the harm, but it matters. Does it? Does stopping evil after participating in it make you good, or just less evil?" "I think it makes you human," Juliet said. "Humans make terrible choices. What defines us is whether we keep making them or find a way to stop. You stopped. Late, under pressure, for selfish reasons, but you stopped. That's something." Park Jin-woo looked at her. This woman he'd tried to kill who was now offering grace he didn't deserve. "You should hate me. You'd be justified. Hate takes energy I'd rather spend on my children," she said. "You're dying. You're no longer a threat. I can afford to forgive you, not because you've earned it, because I don't want to carry rage into whatever comes next. You're stronger than I ever was," he said. "Than I ever could be." Taejun chose well. "Taejun chose correctly," she corrected. "Despite your best efforts to make him choose loyalty over love, despite everything you did to keep us apart, despite killing me and making him grieve, he still chose correctly. That's not about me being strong. That's about him being better than you raised him to be." Park Jin-woo turned to his son. "I'm proud of you. I know that's worthless coming from me. I know my approval means nothing after everything I did, but I need you to know you became the man I should have been. You chose family over empire, chose love over power, chose to protect children instead of exploit them. You're everything I failed to be." Taejun felt tears he didn't know he had left. "I learned what not to do by watching you. That's a kind of teaching. A terrible kind, but yes." His father reached across the table, took his hand. The touch was weak, trembling. "Take care of them, those children. That woman. Be the father I wasn't. Build something that doesn't require blood and lies. Show them that our family can be more than what I made it." "I will," Taejun promised. "I am." Park Jin-woo looked at each of his grandchildren in turn. "You four, you're my redemption. Not because of anything I did. Because despite everything I did, you exist. You're good. You're kind. You're strong. You prove that damage doesn't have to be hereditary. That we can break cycles if we're brave enough to try. We'll remember you," Kojo said. "Not just the bad parts. All of it, the complicated truth. You were our grandfather. You did terrible things. You tried to fix them too late. You were human. That's what we'll tell our children someday. That you were complicated and flawed and human. That's more than I deserve," Park Jin-woo said. "But I'll take it. Thank you, for coming. For giving me this. For letting me die knowing someone will remember me as more than just a monster." He died 3 days later. They held a small funeral. Just family. No one else came. No one else cared. His empire had crumbled. His associates had scattered. His legacy was a series of criminal cases and cautionary tales. But 4 children remembered a grandfather who taught them about consequences, about how choices compound over time, about how redemption is complicated, and forgiveness isn't earned but sometimes given anyway. And that, perhaps, was enough. Some people teach us how to live. Others teach us how not to. Both lessons have value. Both shape who we become. The question isn't whether we come from damage we all do. The question is whether we choose to pass that damage forward, or break the cycle and build something better. Thank you for experiencing this journey of complicated redemption, impossible forgiveness, and the families we build from broken pieces. This story pushed boundaries because real families are messy, forgiveness is complicated, and sometimes the people who hurt us most are the ones we still love. If this story made you think about your own complicated family dynamics, about forgiveness you've given or withheld, about cycles you're trying to break, I want to hear from you. Share your thoughts. Tell me your stories. Let's have honest conversations about the gray areas where love and harm coexist. Your engagement helps me create stories that reflect real human complexity instead of easy answers. Until next time, remember, you get to decide what parts of your family legacy you carry forward and what parts you leave behind. That's your power. Use it wisely.